What if I told you Johnny Depp just dropped a clue that could completely change the way we see his future? Sounds wild, doesn't it? But that's exactly what's happening right now. And the thing is, he didn't do it with a big, dramatic announcement. No massive press release, no blockbuster trailer reveal. Nothing like that. Instead, it was small, subtle, almost like a wink. The kind of hint you don't even realize is huge until you stop and think about it. And then suddenly, it hits you. This could be big. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a place in your life where people thought they had you all figured out? Like they'd already decided your story was over, or at least decided what chapter you should be on. And deep down, you just knew they were wrong? You knew there was more to your story, even if they couldn't see it? If you've ever been there, then you know exactly where Johnny Depp is standing right now. Because here's the thing. For years, people have been writing Depp's ending for him. They've been saying, he's done. He's over. He had his moment, and now it's gone. They've looked at the controversies, the trials, the headlines, the constant noise around his name, and they've said, well, that's it. No way back. But here's what makes this new hint so exciting. Johnny Depp isn't buying that story. He's writing his own. He's showing us that he still has more to give, more to create, more to surprise us with. And honestly, that's the kind of comeback energy we can all relate to. So let's break this down, slowly, piece by piece, because there's a lot to unpack here. First, let's look at how he revealed this hint. Depp didn't say, here's my plan. That's not him. He's never been the kind of person to map out his next moves on a billboard. Instead, he does it quietly. He lets little clues slip through. Maybe it's something he says in passing. Maybe it's the way he shows up at an event. Maybe it's even a gesture or a look that sparks questions. And that's exactly what happened here. He left just enough for people to grab onto. Just enough to make us wonder, now, why does this matter so much? Because if you think about Johnny Depp's career, it's not just a list of movies. It's a list of risks, of choices that made people scratch their heads at first, and then years later look back and say, wow, that was genius. Take Edward Scissorhands, for example. That role wasn't a safe choice. A shy, scissor-handed outsider in a fantasy world. Not exactly the recipe for a box office smash. And yet, it became one of the most beloved films of its era. Or think about Captain Jack Sparrow. When he first introduced that character, people were confused. Some critics even said Disney should fire him because they thought his performance was too odd, too quirky, too unpredictable. But you and I know what happened next. Jack Sparrow didn't just work. He exploded. He became one of the most iconic characters in film history, loved by millions around the world. That's what Depp does. He takes the unexpected, the risky, the strange, and he turns it into something unforgettable. So when he drops a hint now, after everything he's been through, we need to pay attention. Because chances are he's about to pull another unexpected move. Now let's talk about possibilities. Because this is where it gets fun. What could his next chapter actually be? Let's start with the obvious one. Movies. Could this be the hint of a big screen return? It's possible. And let's be honest, seeing Johnny Depp headline another film would be huge. Imagine him stepping into a role so unique, so unlike anything we've seen before, that it makes people remember all over again why he's such a master of his craft. Hollywood loves a comeback story, and few stories are as dramatic as Depp's. It's not just about acting in another movie. It's about rewriting the narrative, proving once again that he belongs on the biggest stage. But here's the twist. Depp is more than just an actor. He's always been a musician at heart. Music isn't a side hobby for him, it's part of who he is. He's toured with real rock legends, recorded albums, and shared stages with some of the biggest names in the industry. So what if this hint points toward music instead? Imagine a new album filled with stories from his life, emotions he's never shared, poured into melodies and lyrics. Or imagine a tour where fans get to see a completely different side of him, raw, real, and unfiltered. Wouldn't that be something? And then there's a third possibility. What if he's stepping away from Hollywood altogether? What if he's ready to create in ways people don't expect? Painting, producing, maybe even mentoring the next wave of artists? Johnny Depp has never been someone you can put in a box. He's unpredictable by nature. That's why following his career feels like a journey. You never know what's coming, but you know it's going to be interesting. Now, let's slow down for a second and address something important. There's this myth floating around out there, and honestly, it's been around for years. People love to repeat it. They say Johnny Depp is finished, that his career is a closed book, that everything worth telling has already been told, and what comes next will never live up to what came before. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We've all heard it. Maybe from critics, maybe from people on social media, maybe even from friends who shrug and say, well, his time has passed. And on the surface, it might sound convincing. After all, he's been in the spotlight for decades. He's had his share of controversies. He's been through battles that would break most people. So sure, maybe the story's over. Maybe he should just walk away quietly. But let's be honest here. When has Johnny Depp ever done things the quiet way? When has he ever just accepted the narrative that people tried to write for him? If you look closely at his career, you'll notice a pattern. Every single time people doubted him, he came back stronger. Every single time they said, that's it, he's done, he flipped the script and proved them wrong. Let's rewind the clock. Back to the early 90s, Depp was known then for his good looks and his role in 21 Jump Street. He could have easily gone the typical Hollywood heartthrob route. Easy scripts, romantic leads. Safe choices. But Depp didn't want that. He hated being boxed in. He wanted to be taken seriously as an artist. So what did people say at the time? They said he was throwing his career away. They said no one would care if he turned down safe roles for weird, experimental ones. And then came Edward Scissorhands, a gothic, offbeat fairy tale about a shy gentleman with scissors for hands. Critics thought it was too strange, too risky, too niche. But when the film hit the big screen, everything changed. That performance didn't just work, it defined him. It showed the world that Johnny Depp wasn't just another pretty face. He was something different, something unpredictable, something bold. Suddenly, that too strange choice became a career-defining masterpiece. And all those people who said he was done? They had to eat their words. Fast forward a decade. Depp was offered the role of Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean. Sounds simple enough, right? A pirate in a Disney adventure. Safe family fun. But Depp had other plans. He played Jack Sparrow like no one expected. He mixed Keith Richards' swagger with his own eccentric style, and he delivered a performance that was funny, chaotic, unpredictable, and according to early critics, way too weird. Some executives at Disney were even nervous. They thought audiences would hate it. They thought Depp had ruined the movie. But what happened? That too weird pirate became a global phenomenon. Jack Sparrow wasn't just a character. He was the character, the heart and soul of the franchise. Kids dressed up like him. Fans quoted him. The role earned Depp an Academy Award nomination, and the franchise went on to make billions. The very thing people doubted, his quirks, his unpredictability, became the thing that defined the success. Do you see the pattern here? Edward Scissorhands was too strange until it wasn't. Jack Sparrow was too weird until it wasn't. And now people are saying he's too finished. Well, if history is any guide, we already know how this story ends. Because every time Depp has been underestimated, every time people thought he was out of the game, he turned those doubts into fuel. And let's not forget his resilience outside of the roles. Think about what he's been through personally and professionally. The public trials, the endless headlines, the kind of negative attention that would make most people want to hide forever. And yet Depp didn't disappear. He stood his ground. He let the world see his flaws, his scars, his side of the story. And when the dust settled, he didn't retreat. He picked himself up and kept creating. That's not the story of someone who's finished. That's the story of someone who refuses to be counted out. And here's the thing about myths like this. They're comfortable. They're easy. They let people neatly close a chapter in their minds and say, well, that's that. It's tidy, simple, and final. But reality doesn't work that way, especially when we're talking about real artists. Real artists don't retire from being who they are. You can't tell someone like Johnny Depp to stop creating. That would be like telling a musician to stop hearing melodies in their head, or telling a painter to stop seeing colors and shapes that demand to be put on canvas. It doesn't work. Creativity isn't a job you clock in and out of. It's part of who you are. It's the pulse that keeps beating, whether the world is paying attention or not. And Johnny Depp? He isn't just an actor who shows up on a set, says his lines, and collects a paycheck. That's never been him. He's a storyteller, and storytelling isn't tied to a contract or a release date. Storytelling is eternal. It's in the way he plays a role, in the music he makes with his band, in the art he paints, even in the way he speaks about his own life. That's what people forget when they say he's finished. They confuse temporary silence with finality. They see a pause and think it's the end. But pauses in an artist's life aren't endings. They're part of the rhythm. Sometimes you need quiet to gather strength. Sometimes you need stillness to prepare for something bigger. And if history has shown us anything about Depp, it's that his silences are never empty. They're the spaces where he reloads, recalibrates, and comes back with something people never saw coming. Think about it. If Depp was just a Hollywood actor, maybe he could fade away quietly. But he never was. His identity isn't bound to one medium. He's always been bigger than the screen. From his early days in music, to his painting exhibitions, to his collaborations with other artists, Depp has proven time and time again that creativity for him is oxygen. You can't tell someone to stop breathing, and you can't tell him to stop creating. Storytelling doesn't have an expiration date because stories themselves don't expire. The human need to tell them, to hear them, to pass them on, that's timeless. And storytellers like Depp don't follow a script written by critics or the public. They follow their own, which is why no matter how many times people say he's finished, he proves that his story isn't done, it's still unfolding in ways no one can fully predict. So, when people lean into the myth that it's over, they're not describing Johnny Depp's reality. They're just clinging to an easy narrative. The truth? His creativity has no off switch. His art doesn't fit into neat chapters. And his storytelling, whether through film, music, or painting, will keep finding its way into the world, no matter how many people declare the book closed. Look around at history. How many times have legends been called done only to prove otherwise? Robert Downey Jr. was called washed up before Iron Man. Mickey Rourke was called finished before The Wrestler. Even Marlon Brando had periods where people thought he'd lost it, until he came back with something unforgettable. Why should Depp be any different? If anything, he's built his entire career on comebacks, so when people say he's finished, what they're really doing is repeating the same mistake critics have made for decades. They're underestimating him. And honestly, isn't that the best place for Johnny Depp to be? Underestimated? Because that's where he thrives. That's where he does his best work. That's where he proves everyone wrong, and maybe that's why this new hint feels so powerful. It's not just about what he's planning next. It's about the fact that he's planning anything at all. He could have walked away. He could have said, "Fine, you're right, I'm done." But he didn't. He teased something new, something exciting, something that says, "No, my story isn't over." So let me ask you, do you really believe Johnny Depp is finished? Do you really think a man who turned a scissor-handed misfit into a cultural icon, who transformed a drunken pirate into a billion-dollar franchise, who survived years of public battles and still kept going, is just going to stop now? Or do you think, maybe, just maybe, his greatest chapter hasn't even been written yet? Because if history tells us anything, it's this. Johnny Depp's career isn't a closed book. It's a story that keeps surprising us. And the best part? We're all here to see what comes next. Here's something most fans don't realize. Johnny Depp's true gift isn't just acting, it's storytelling. And storytelling doesn't live in one lane. It doesn't have to be just film. It can be music. It can be painting. It can be a stage performance. It can even be a quiet piece of art that only a few get to see. And that's what makes his next chapter so fascinating. It doesn't have to look like the old ones. It can be something entirely new. And here's a little pro insight for you. Artists like Depp, real artists, don't retire from creativity. They don't stop making art because the world tells them to. They don't put their passion in a box and close the lid. They create because they can't not create. It's who they are. That's why predicting his next move is so difficult. He's not playing by Hollywood's rules. He's following his own. And let's be real, that's when he's at his best. Also, let's not ignore the timing. He's dropping hints now for a reason. Big announcements don't happen by accident. When a star like Johnny Depp starts teasing the future, it usually means the future is a lot closer than we think. So, where does this leave us? with possibilities, with hope, with curiosity, and with one simple truth. Johnny Depp is not done. Not even close. He's moving into something new, something bold, something exciting, and we get to watch it unfold. But let me turn the question over to you. What do you think is coming next for Johnny Depp? Do you see him stepping back onto a movie set ready to shock Hollywood all over again? Do you see him pouring his heart into music, maybe going on tour, giving fans a completely new way to connect with him? Or do you think he'll surprise us with something totally out of the blue? An art project, a creative collaboration, maybe even a brand new medium we haven't thought of yet? I'd love to know your thoughts. And if this conversation has you thinking, there's another video I've done that dives deep into Depp's most underrated roles. The ones people forget about, but the ones that really show his range and his genius. It'll give you a whole new perspective on just how much he's capable of. Before you head there, though, let me ask you for a quick favor. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, and share this with a fellow Depp fan who needs to hear it. Because I have a feeling his biggest chapter isn't behind him. It's ahead. And together, we'll be here to see it unfold. And let me just say this one last time. Don't count him out! Johnny Depp is a storyteller. And storytellers don't stop. They keep going. They keep creating. They keep surprising us. His next chapter might just be the boldest one yet. And I, for one, can't wait to see what it is.